Good morning and welcome to the City of Rapid City Planning Commission meeting for October 26th, 2017. If any member of the audience wishes to speak to an item on the Planning Commission agenda, there are speaker request forms on the table along the left wall. Please fill out the request with the agenda number of the item you wish to speak to and hand it to the staff seated on the left of the dais. At this time, we would also like to ask that if any member of the audience has a cell phone or other electronic device, that you either turn it off or turn the ringer to silent. If you need to take a call, please step out to the hallway so the meeting is not disrupted. Items 1 through 11 have been placed on the consent calendar and may be approved as a group. Action will be taken on all consent items in accordance with staff's recommendation by a single vote. Any item may be removed from the consent calendar by any planning commissioner, staff member, or audience member for separate consideration at this time. The findings of this planning commission are recommendations to the City Council. The City Council will make the final decision with the exception of the following items. Item 4, 17 PD 047, and item 11, 17 UR 022. The Rapid City Planning Commission's actions on these items are final unless any party appeals that decision to the Rapid City Council. All appeals must be submitted in writing to the Community Planning and Development Services Department by the close of business on the 7th full calendar day following action by the Planning Commission. Are there any items 1 through 11, that the staff would like removed from the consent calendar?
Number 4.
Number 4. Are there any items 1 through 11 that the Planning Commission would like removed from the consent calendar?
I need
7. Okay. And then are there any items 1 through 11 that any audience member would like removed from the consent calendar? The chair would then entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar items 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 10, and 11 in accordance with staff's recommendations. Galen made the motion to approve those. Rachel seconded that motion. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 4.
Item number 4 is 17 PD 047, a final plan development to allow an office complex located, let me start the presentation. It's located southeast of Catron and U.S. Highway 16 at the terminus of Addison Avenue. Property zone office commercial district. As you'll notice, the property to the south is zoned low-density residential district south of this property. Applicants proposing to construct an office complex with 2 structures measuring 7,200 square feet. The applicant is not requesting any exceptions. However, after speaking with the applicant and reviewing the stipulations of approval, they're indicating that the property to the south may develop as commercial in the future, and so to work with that, rather than requiring the fence when there may not be residential to the south, we're revising the stipulation, which is before you on the dais, that stipulation number 1, prior to issuance of a building permit, the site plan shall be revised to show a 6-foot-high opaque screening fence to be located along the south property line, or the applicant shall enter into an agreement securing the timing of the construction of the fence. That gives them, we'll put language in the agreement that basically states if the property to the south develops as commercial, is rezoned, then the agreement that they don't have to provide that fence. So with that, staff is recommending that the final plan development be approved with the stipulations and the revised stipulation. Are there any questions for staff?
Revised stipulation.
Perfect. Galen made the motion to approve per the revised stipulation as read on number 1.
Second.
And Mike Kwasny seconded that motion. Any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 7, I think Kim pulled items 7, 8, and 9, so she can abstain. Unless there's discussion on them, I would say we should take them at once and allow Kim to abstain. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, Mike G. Galen made the motion to approve. Mike seconded that motion. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? The motion carries with Kim's abstention on those items. Item number 12.
Item number 12 is an initial final plan development overlay to allow a hotel, file number 17 PD 036. Property is located west of Rushmore Crossing along Eglin Street, east of North Lacrosse Street, Zone General Commercial District with a planned development. Currently, the property is void of any structural development. We have Walmart to the south, other commercial businesses, hotels to the west, and Sleep Center over here. And then we've also seen another couple of hotels along Luna Avenue to the east. Future land use is mixed-use commercial, and Eglin Street is identified as a collector street on the city's major street plan. Applicant is proposing a two-phase development. Phase 1 is a 218 room hotel. The applicant has also identified a Phase 2, which is a restaurant, they have not determined the size or which restaurant it is, so that will come in as a major amendment to the plan development when those details are locked down. One of the exceptions that the applicant is requesting is an exception to allow a height of 49 feet in lieu of 45 feet. Here we have the landscape plan. One of the exceptions that the applicant was also requesting was removing trees from landscape islands. However, you'll see in our recommendation that there are enough parking lot islands in this proposed plan that they could combine them and put some trees in those. So staff's recommending that that exception request be denied. Elevations of the proposed hotel. You can see where the additional 4 feet of height would be along the front of the hotel. This is similar to exceptions that we've granted in the past for hotels in this area where it's just for a feature like a parapet like that. They're still providing only 4 stories, which is the maximum allowed in the district. Staff is recommending that the exception to allow a height of 49 feet in lieu of 45 feet be granted. Signage that's being proposed. There'll be a True Hilton and a Hampton Inn and Suites. As I said, a total of 218 rooms. Here we have looking into the site from Eglin Street, looking to the south and to the southeast. You can see the backside of Walmart there. Looking to the west, elevation rises towards the west. Looking along Eglin Street towards the west on the northwest, some of the hotels, other hotels in the area. Looking directly to the north, which is void of structural development, and looking along Eglin Street towards the east, back towards Rushmore Crossing, and the Sleep Center that's to the property to the northeast. And again, looking into the property, and back here is one of the hotels that we've recently approved with a height exception for the parapet, which you can see right in there. Staff is recommending that the plan development be approved with stipulations noted in the staff report. If there are any questions for staff at this time.
Mike Kwasny.
I guess I have a couple questions. We have 218 rooms and there's 218 parking spots. Now, is there a regulation that they have to match that number? I guess I would see where that could be a problem if they have a full.
parking ordinance requires one parking space per room. So for 218 rooms, there will be 218 parking spaces. However, I believe with this phase one, they are constructing 228 parking spaces.
Okay, now they do have a room for a restaurant there, and they're going to put a restaurant in. Is this going to give adequate parking, I guess, is my question.
As noted in the stipulations of approval, that restaurant will come forward with a major amendment to the plan development. It'll be heard before this planning commission in the future. At that point, they will have to request an exception to reduce the parking. They did include it with this application. However, we did not review it as it's for phase two, and we are requiring a major amendment for phase two.
So we're creating a future problem by the 218. It sounds. So I guess I have a little bit of a problem with the parking, and we've discussed this before in the past, and especially if we're going to put a restaurant out in the front of that, we create a situation that's not good for the people that come and visit our community. The other question that I have before we go into, we may want to discuss that a little more, but we keep bringing up the 4 foot or 3 feet we add on, and I guess it's more for signage that we're putting this on, and I don't know if it's something that we need to visit to allow this in this case, and it keeps coming up. I don't know. It just keeps coming up, and it's a question that I have. Have the standards changed? Why did we come up with 45 feet? But we keep getting variances on these, so those were the questions I had.
Thanks, Mike. Galen? Oh, planning. Sorry. You guys got in first. Vicki?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, Mike, in response to your discussion about parking, for this phase of development, the 218 parking spaces are all that are required. The fact that they're providing 10 over takes into account they have employees, and they're trying to provide parking for that as well. The site plan that Fletcher had up initially did show the restaurant with additional parking. When they come in with phase two, they will either have to provide sufficient parking on site for that restaurant, or they will need to provide shared parking with another property. And we do see that a lot in these areas where there is some access that intermixes between properties. If you look at some of the other hotels in town, when you pull up, you're not sure where the parking is for each one because they do like to group together. It's certainly something that we've put them on notice that they need to address, and you will have an opportunity to see that for phase two of the development. When we visited about the exception request as a part of phase one to grant the exception for a future restaurant, we don't know the restaurant. Sometimes that kind of lends itself to whether or not additional parking should be required beyond the ordinance, or if it's going to be sufficient. So for today, they are meeting their minimum parking requirements. They've been put on notice that this is something they'll have to continue to review and hopefully find solution to. In reference to the height, please note that when someone comes in for any height exception on a commercial structure, if it should include signage or lighting above that 45 feet, we typically don't recommend to approve those. This is only an architectural feature, and as you saw in the aerial or the outdoor graphic that Fletcher provided for the existing structure that was just recently constructed, it's very minimal. You ask a question if this is something we should be looking at from our regulations since we're getting so many of these. Here several years ago, we did bring forward a discussion to the Planning Commission to raise our height across the board. And at that time, the Planning Commission said, no, let's leave it at 45 feet and let's look at them individually to see, does it include lighting? Does it include signage? And so that's why we keep bringing these to you. We will support them when they're just an architectural feature. We will not if they have lighting or signage involved.
Thanks, Vicki. Galen?
Thank you. So, I had a comment on the parking islands. I think we're asking to request a variance to not allow or to not force trees into these things. And I think the layout with 12 smaller islands actually looks better than if you were to merge these into 4 larger islands. So I guess that would be my comment. Is I think we should allow the exception to, to plant something other than trees in these things, because it's laid out pretty nicely where they kind of bookend the parking space. And then if you go with larger islands, you probably lose a couple parking spots too. So that's my comment.
Thanks, Galen. Vicki?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So we were very pleased overall with their landscaping plan. The fact that they have, correct me if I'm wrong, Fletcher, 10 landscape islands?
About 12.
12. The intent of a landscape island is really to help break up that hardscape that's created by the amount of pavement that's being utilized to provide those parking spaces. And when you take the trees out of the mix, it really doesn't give you that visual break that we're looking for when you've got cars parked around it. There is an element with the trees that encourage people to park within those areas. It gives some people a safer ingress and egress out of their vehicle. Our recommendation is going to be leaning towards creating those breaks in hardscape that actually serve a purpose. It might actually save them long term in the amount of islands that they would need to create and the cost involved in that. That's why we brought forward the recommendation to combine the 12 into 4 and have more of a landscape impact than to do 12 without trees.
Thanks, Vicki. Further questions or comments on this item? I don't have anybody's lights up. If not, I'd look for a motion on it. Motion to approve. Okay. Rachel made the motion to approve per staff stipulations. Is there a second? Second. Mike G. seconded that motion. Further discussion on the motion on the table? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? No. The motion carries with Mike Kwasny voting no. Item number 13.
Item number 13 is 17 PD 048, a major amendment to a plan development to allow a townhome in the low-density residential district. The townhome low-density residential district does not call out a townhome as a permitted use. However, in the townhome section, within a planned development, a townhome can be approved. So this is in a planned development. The applicant is requesting that a townhome be allowed. They have indicated that future development to the north along Copperfield Drive will include townhomes. So we're taking a look at that. The one exception that they're requesting is a reduction in the front yard setback from 25 feet to 20 feet. In the low-density residential district for a sub-collector street, which Copperfield Drive is, the minimum required front yard setback is 20 feet. The townhome section, however, requires a 25-foot front yard setback. So in order to bring it into compliance with what is required for everyone else in the low-density residential district, they're looking to reduce that front yard setback so that it resembles what other structures have in the neighborhood. So staff is recommending that the exception be granted to allow the 20.5 feet front yard setback. All other setbacks and lot coverage are going to be met. Elevation, 2 stories, 2 stall garages. Here's looking into the property. You can see it looks like they're getting ready for more development to the north. The neighborhood is primarily low-density residential district, so adding townhomes diversifies the housing in the area. Looking to the south along Copperfield, along Homestead to the east, there's a lot of open space and more industrial and employment to the far to the east. This is looking directly across Copperfield. You can see it's undeveloped except further to the east. The sign is posted on the property, and Copperfield will continue north And again, looking to the east and northeast. Staff is recommending that the major amendment be approved with stipulations noted in the staff report. Are there any questions for staff at this time?
Mike?
Did I see that they were going to put more townhomes in the development that they're going further north on, or I thought I read someplace that that was the case? This is the only.
Oh, sorry.
This is the only townhome right there.
Right now, this is the only townhome. The applicant has indicated that they're going to continue the townhomes north along Copperfield. However, we do not have any applications in at this time for that development.
So this would be the only home that would be at the 20-foot. All the others are set back 25 feet. And it's a corner lot?
It is a corner lot. When they do come in with that final plan development, they will probably be asking for the exception, or we will be working as staff on revising the townhome section to mirror what is allowed in low-density residential district. Either or should happen.
So a single home there would not need the 25 or 20-foot setback. It would have the regular with the space in the yard. It looked like the lot was kind of set. The problem is the angle in the back.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah, Vicki?
So right now our ordinance in all of the residential zoning districts say that if you're not on a collector or an arterial street, the front yard setback is 20 feet. And in our townhome section of the ordinance, when we made that change unilaterally, we didn't catch that for a townhome, it specifically states that the front yard setback is 25 feet. Our intent was that if it's a home for whether it be townhome or single family, that we reduce our front yard setback from 25 feet to 20 feet. The intent being that we pull those homes to the street a little bit. Let's make those backyards a little more usable. We are of a community that we like to have those backyards for our children to play in. You will be seeing an ordinance amendment coming soon, very shortly. Ken has authorized us to do some cleanups. This is kind of an oopsie on our part. We didn't catch it in the townhomes. That requires them as a part of the plan development to seek the exception to reduce the front yard setback from 25 feet to 20 feet, which is otherwise allowed for a single-family home.
Okay.
Kurt?
Fletcher, could you show me where, I see there was a letter opposing this request, 828 Copperfield Drive. Can you show me on the map where that's located?
I'm not aware of any letters in opposition.
It's from
There's a
Irvin
couple
Munt,
linked.
Irvin and Patsy Munt. I was just wondering where that was in reference to this lot. It's lot 7 of block 1 of Copperfield.
We're going to have to see what we can.
Okay,
Pull
well,
up
maybe
from
I
that.
can figure it out here, but
Rachel, in the meantime, you want to step in with your comments, questions?
Well, I hate to hit staff with two at the same time, but my question is about the potential townhomes in the future. So if we approve this, is this setting off like a cascade of townhomes? I mean, did they have to, I guess my question is, when the applicant potentially puts in townhomes nearby, do they need to come before us to get permission for that? Or are those going to happen regardless of what we say? Does that make sense?
It will come before you in a major amendment. The property to the north is within a plan development, so they'll have to, and the only way that townhomes are allowed in low-density residential District 1 is in a plan development.
Okay, so that is low density. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
I guess I'd like to add a question, too, to the mix. I have this memory that along Homestead, we had a setback question several years ago on whether the single-family homes could be moved closer to the street. Is there, unfortunately, I don't remember if we granted that or not, or we left them just per code.
I believe our recommendation was to keep it at a 25-foot setback.
Okay.
You'll see in this case, they're providing a 37.7-foot setback from Homestead. So
Okay.
they're in compliance.
And Copperfield is just a lower order street than
Yes.
Homestead, and that's the reason for the, okay.
If Copperfield were a collector street or an arterial, a 25-foot setback would be required. But it is a sub-collector street.
Okay, thank you. I don't have any other lights up. Kurt, do we need to circle back to your question? You've got
Mr.
it? Okay.
Mr. Chair, unfortunately, Rapid Map's not opening right now. Oh, it doesn't open till 8.
GIS does their
Thank you.
So having said that, part of what Fletcher presented to you folks is, when we look at these, we compare these requests to our adopted comprehensive plan. One of the things that study disclosed is that we don't have a great diversity of housing type within our residential developments, and that's strongly encouraged. It creates a sense of community, and therefore allowing your townhomes and your single family is something that we actually strive towards. To make a statement that to allow a townhome in an area of my single family, it's going to devalue or hurt the value of my home, that's speculative, and as the attorney's office has advised us, unless we're presented with real data, that's something we can't use in our decision making.
Thanks, Vicki. John?
I just have a question on the verbiage. It says to allow a townhome, which, this is a twin townhome, correct, that they're building? So a townhome seems like one unit, which is,
So, Mr. Chair,
Yeah.
so how, based on the definitions in the ordinance as they stand today, we should probably revise that stipulation to read a 2-unit townhome.
thank
Okay.
you.
Good catch, John. I don't have any other lights up. I look for a motion on this.
I'll make a motion
Mr.
to-
Chair?
Yeah, Vicki,
As
sorry.
Ken points out too, many communities, when you just have the 2 units, would call them a twin home. And that certainly limits it to 2. So it's your preference. You could amend the stipulation to just say a twin home. Your choice. Good point. Well done.
Galen, I'll leave it up to you. You started to make a motion.
I'd prefer
All right. Is there, okay. Rachel seconds the motion. Any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? The motion carries. We're on to item number 14.
Item number 14 is 17 PD 049, a final plan development to allow an oversized garage with exceptions. Property is located at 2918, and there's actually two dwellings currently located on the property. So it's also 2926 Garden Lane. Property is owned low-density residential district. It's located south of the Johnson Ranch development, which is happening to the north, which is a mix of single-family, preschool. There'll be some commercial, smaller lot, single-family, and maybe some other mixed residential in the future. As you can see here, there's currently a single-family dwelling and detached garage and what is a trailer home located on the east side of the property. The applicant's proposing a phased development where they will remove the existing single-family dwelling and garage here, construct a 3,072 square foot Morton building on the property, which you need to have a primary use on the property, so that's why the trailer home is going to remain in place. One of the exceptions is to allow two primary structures on the property at the same time temporarily, because while the second dwelling is being constructed in this area, the trailer home will remain on the property, but before they can get a CO on the new home, they'll have to remove the trailer home. So that exception is for temporarily allowing two primary structures on the property until they're completed, the single-family dwelling. The other exceptions being requested is to allow an accessory structure with a height of 18 feet in lieu of 15 feet, and then we're seeing the exception to waive the requirement to pave the first 50 feet of the driveway. Future land use is low density neighborhood, and then we can see where in the city it's located. Garden Lane is accessed off of South Valley Drive, which is identified as a collector street. Here's that proposed site plan. They're not quite sure until they remove the existing dwelling and garage where they're going to place that proposed single-family dwelling, which will also have a attached garage measuring 546 square feet in size. So the accessory storage building north of that, comprehensive plan supports putting structures like this behind the dwelling, setback from the dwelling. In addition, they're showing at least a 92-foot setback from that west property line. So with that distance and their intent of putting their storage within this building and the design of the building, for the garage doors, they need that height of 18 feet in lieu of 15 feet. For these reasons and the fact that it'll face east towards the interior of the property, staff is recommending that the exception for the height be granted and the exception for the oversized garage be granted. However, the applicant is also requesting to waive the requirement to pave the first 50 feet of the driveway. Garden Lane is a paved street, so we don't have the issue where they're going to have to pave it and it's coming off of a gravel street. It is a paved street. To reduce that dust and tracking of mud and dirt and gravel onto a paved public right-of-way, staff is recommending that exception request be denied. Here we have an elevation Cleary building. So in order for those garage doors, height of 18 feet to that midpoint in the roof. Here's looking at the existing dwelling and detached garage, and then the trailer home, which are currently located on the property. The applicant has indicated they'll be closing off two driveways and just keeping the one driveway, the existing driveway here. Garden Lane does terminate at the east of the property. This is looking property to the south. You can see some horses on there. It's a larger lot. This is looking west along Garden Lane. You can see paved street. Doesn't have curb and gutter. This is property directly to the west. There is also a large accessory structure located behind the house on that property. Staff is recommending that the final plan development be approved with stipulations noted in the staff report, including the denying the exception to waive the requirement to pave the first 50 feet. Are there any questions for for staff at this time.
I've got Rachel up.
Yeah, my only question is about the certificate of occupancy. What happens if they, I mean, I know, that's the standard part, but what happens if they don't get the certificate of occupancy and they just leave the trailer home and the residence up there?
So city's regulations require the certificate of occupancy. If we see that someone's occupying the structure, then they'll get a letter noting that they need to come into compliance. Another option, if you prefer, we don't do this very often, but certainly something that you could consider. If we know what the construction period is when they anticipate having the mobile home removed from the property, we could bring this back forward to you and review the item, where we would do a field inspection and bring that back to you. And we have done that in the past on a very few of these. But that would be an option.
Okay, thank you.
Mike?
On that same subject, I guess, are they allowed a certain amount of time then in between the certificate of occupancy and removing the hotel or in the trailer? Only because seems like they would have to have some time to, okay.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah, Vicki.
One of the things that kind of lends itself to requiring that it be removed prior to issuance of a certificate of occupancy, most individuals have to finance these structures. Banks want to see that certificate of occupancy to close on that construction loan. So we kind of work hand in hand on making sure that we got our ducks in a row.
Insurance as well. In a new structure, the insurance company wants to see a certificate of occupancy.
Very good.
We also have a speaker request on this from Linda Peterson, if you'd like to say a few words. And please identify yourself with an address for our
My
minute
name is
taking.
Linda Peterson. I live at the 2826 Garden Lane, which is right next to this, and we're the ones that are going to be building the new house. To speak to the point of the removing the mobile home, this is going to be my backyard, so I don't want the mobile home in there. I just want to leave it there in case our house sells before we get our new house built, then we'll be living in the mobile home. But then it'll be removed, so I can assure you it's going to be gone. So what I wanted to ask you about is the exception for the 50 feet of paved driveway. Currently, there are about 16 driveways that access onto Garden Lane. There are several properties that have multiple driveways. In fact, this property has 3 driveways. We'll be going down to 1. The person across the street has 3 driveways into his property. None of those are paved. Now, out of the 16 driveways on that road, there are 2 that have a minimal amount of asphalt, and there are 2 of them that are paved. There might be 3, but I think that there's 2 of them that are paved. One of them happens to be our driveway for our houses directly to the west. In the future, I'm sure that my husband will want to pave it because that's just the way he is. He likes to have the access for the snow removal and stuff like that, having it clean. But kind of getting there, getting set up, getting the house built, it's just not an added expense we want right now to have to pave that. So I guess that's why I'm asking for the exception. It's not something that's standard in that area. And, like I said, this is going to be the house we live in. We're retiring there. So we're just trying to make something that's a little downsized and a little bit more accessible for us. So that's why I'm asking for the exception. So, any questions, Rod?
Thank you. Any people have questions for Linda? Yeah, Vicki.
So at a recent meeting, you had a similar plan development request where someone wanted to construct a carport. They had removed a couple sheds. They had a workshop still on the property. It was in excess of the square footage that was allowed for garage, carport, accessory structures on a residential lot. Somewhat similar, it was on a paved road. None of the other driveways in the area were currently paved. I believe Ted gave some good testimony at that meeting regarding the tracking, and there was comment about the air quality issues that are sometimes created when gravel or dirt driveways are allowed. This is somewhat similar. I will remind you that your action on that one was to deny the request to waive the pavement. And this, even though there are other driveways in the area that currently aren't paved, when any one of them come in for a building permit, whether it be for an accessory structure, an addition onto a home, or new construction on the lot, they will be required to pave those driveways. That's how we get them, one building permit at a time.
Thanks, Vicki. Galen?
Thank you. So I think this property is pretty unique in that it's, agricultural, if you want to think of it that in nature, and that it's 6, almost 7 acres. And so I would lean towards being a little lenient on requiring the paving here. I guess my question is, can we strike a compromise? It sounds like the landowner wants to pave it eventually. Can we put like a 2-year, some like longer term where they would, not have to pave it right away, but within X number of years they'd have to have it paved? Is that something that's been done before? Is that even possible?
Mr. Chair, we have. Let's say that there was a requirement to remove a shed or something. We would put a timeline on it, and then typically the stipulation would say the driveway shall be paved within 2 years of approval of this application, and surety shall be posted to ensure that the improvement is completed. That's usually what you've coupled it with.
Well, I guess maybe I'll pose that question to the applicant, Ms. Peterson. What kind of time frame would you be looking for? Is 1 year enough?
I honestly don't know. Okay. The property is not going to be used for anything other than our own personal use. The shop is for, storage of like our horse trailer, our camper. My husband has a bobcat, things like that. So it's not that there's going to be excessive traffic in and out of the place. We are at the end of a dead-end road. The property that is to the east of us is actually owned by Hanny Shaffey, but it's fenced off to where we run our horses in there. So there's not like traffic coming out onto the road. But I don't know exactly how long it would be before we do something, and I don't know to what degree he wants to do it. I mean, I would assume that he would want to do concrete, but he might want to do asphalt. So, I guess I'm not sure exactly what. I guess as funds present themselves. So.
And I think we discussed last week, asphalt is fine to do as well. It doesn't have to be concrete, and it only has to be the first 50 feet. So.
Thanks, Galen. Other questions or comments? There were a couple lights up. Go on, John.
In the past, I think that we've given them a 1 paving season extension, right? I mean, wasn't that typical in the new construction? Because then you have all your construction traffic done with. But I think that first 50 feet is critical anymore. I mean, if you see the construction and all of the dirt and all the stuff that comes out onto the roads, and then it's a hassle to get the contractors and everybody to clean it, and they'd almost have to clean it every day. I mean, we see it in our neighborhood right now with construction going on, and there's all that red dirt in the road. So, I don't know, I would say 1 paving season and do it.
Well, I don't have any other requests up. Look for a motion on this item. Okay. Mike Goller made the motion to approve with staff recommendations. Is there a second to that motion?
Second that.
Rachel seconded the motion. Any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? The motion carries. Item number 15.
Good morning, Sarah Hansel, Long Range Planning. Item numbers 15, 16, 17, and 18 are annexation petitions and their associated rezones north of Sheridan Lake Road out in the Red Rocks area. The applicant has requested that the two rezoning items, so that would be item 16 and 18, that those two be continued for 2 weeks to the next Planning Commission meeting on November 9th, I believe that is. So staff's recommendation would be to continue those two items and then address only the annexation petitions today.
Okay, are you asking to do the two together? So we'd be, or are we doing 15 and 17 separate, or doing all of them separately?
We can take 15 and 17 separately.
Mr. Chair, I advise you to go ahead and hear the presentation on 15, and then after 15, take 16 and 18 concurrently, and if you so concur to continue those, and then we'll follow up with Sarah's presentation on item 17.
Okay,
It's going to be a little easier on our minute keeping to kind of keep them in numerical order.
perfect. Item number 15 then.
Okay, this is for an annexation of approximately 6 acres north of Sheridan Lake Road. You can see the property highlighted here. It's currently undeveloped property. It is located adjacent to the existing corporate limits on the north and west side. Here's an aerial view of the property. As you can see, to the north of this, the existing development consists primarily of single-family homes and townhomes or twin homes. Similarly, to the east, there are 6 existing twin home units. To the southeast, there are commercial storage units developed, and there's a single-family home located directly to the south. This is the future land use showing low-density neighborhood. This is the major street plan. You can see that Sheridan Lake Road is a principal arterial. Dunsmore Road to Portrush Road is a minor arterial. Portrush Road is a collector. And there is also a community activity center located at this intersection on the future land use plan. Zooming out a little further here, you can kind of see the context within the Red Rocks neighborhood area. This is the exhibit submitted with the application. There you'll kind of get a peek ahead to the property adjacent to it that's also being requested to be annexed. Here are the site photos. So this is at the corner of Portrush Road and Dunsmore, looking south towards Sheridan Lake Road. This is looking east into the adjacent property. Again, this is along Portrush Road. This is looking west. Those there you can kind of see in the foreground the 6 existing townhome units that are located on the property adjacent to the east. And there you can see the commercial storage units. So the storage units, I should be clear, are not on this property that's being annexed, but they are located to the south. This annexation petition meets all the statutory requirements for annexation, and staff is recommending that it be approved and that the rezones come forward at a future time.
Thank you. Any questions for Sarah?
Mr. Chair?
Yeah, Vicki.
Just a point of clarification. If the rezones wouldn't come forward in a timely manner, even though they're only being continued 1 meeting, please note that upon annexation, they are zoned no use district. And that serves as a holding zone so that the zoning can catch up with it at a later time.
Mm-hmm.
Move to approve petition for annexation.
Galen made the motion to approve. Is there a second to his motion? Rachel seconded the motion. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. So then we'll take items 16 and 18 together, and the applicant's request on these is to continue to the November 9th meeting.
Move to continue to November 9th.
Galen made the motion to continue items 16 and 18 to November 9th. Is there a second? Kim seconded the motion. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? The motion carries. Item number 17.
Okay, you'll notice very similar graphics here. This is just immediately adjacent. This property is about 6.5 acres. It's slightly larger. It's located directly south of those twin townhome units and directly north of the existing storage facilities. Here's the aerial view of the property showing the development adjacent on each side. And the future land use designation for this area is mixed use commercial. There you can see the activity center designation at the intersection of Dunsmore Road and Sheridan Lake Road. Here again, the major street plan and its context within the Sheridan Lake Road neighborhood area. You'll notice site photos are very similar. It's a nice day that day. This is actually showing Muirfield Drive, so these photos actually are adjacent to the photos from the previous application. But the neighborhood kind of context is the same all in this area. And similarly, it does meet all of the requirements for annexation, and we are recommending that it be approved. I can take any questions.
Thank you. Mike?
I think it will be annexed. I don't have a problem with that. The problem I have is that area is getting developed a lot. And if you have the opportunity to need to go out there, there are times of the day that traffic getting in and out of that area is pretty tough. And I thought I saw a letter that stated that also. So, somebody had brought that up. Do we have future plans as far as some arterial roads to get people out in a different spot other than Dunsmore and Red Rock? Because I think there's only like 2 exits on there, and there's nothing to the backside, nothing to the east.
The development of these 2 particular parcels don't trigger any additional development of roadways through the area.
Maybe Vicki?
Yeah, Vicki or Ted, maybe
So in
there's something
speaking
on the
to-
long range.
In speaking to your question or comment, Mike, Muirfield and Dunsmore currently provide those 2 points of access, as you referenced. Dunsmore is identified this stretch as an arterial street. We do anticipate that there will be improvements. There are triggers within the Infrastructure Design Criteria Manual that would put a developer on notice that they need to provide the city with a traffic impact study and then make whatever improvements are deemed necessary as a result of that study. It's not anticipated that future development of this small acreage would trigger that traffic impact study. Certainly know that the city is aware of the concerns with ingress and egress. There was collaboration with the county on getting that intersection of Dunsmore and Sheridan Lake Road in place, which it currently is, which has greatly improved the safety at that intersection. Those conversations will continue. As far as what we see to the north, at this point, we do not have a plan that's been presented to the city where the developers would be providing that street connection to the north. You may recall several years ago, there was a push from some area residents wanting to have a connection up through Chapel Valley. And there was a study done that showed exactly how that could occur. The residents in Chapel Valley were in opposition to that connection. There was an ad hoc committee formed, and we met every Tuesday one whole summer and discussed the different options, and it was decided at that time that there would not be a plan approved that would definitely secure that street connection, even though if a developer to the south were to develop and provide connection to existing street sections within Chapel Valley, then that certainly is everyone's developer's right to do. So at this time, there isn't an identified street to the north, which would greatly improve ingress and egress and disperse the traffic. Many of those leaving this area would like to go north in lieu of east, but everyone has to come back into Rapid City in one direction.
Thanks, Vicki.
As we move forward, it's something that I really think needs to be looked at because it's a serious problem we're creating, not only for the residents, but also for fire and for police, all of our emergency situations. We're creating a situation that might be a problem going forward. And so it's something I think we need to really address sooner than later, and take care of the problems in this area to not have what they exist now, as they exist now.
Thanks, Mike. I don't have any other lights up on item 17, petition for annexation. Is there, Kip, did you want to join in the discussion?
Sure, thanks. Kip Harrington, Long Range Planning. I just want to let you guys know that Public Works is currently undergoing a corridor study on Sheridan Lake Road between Corral Drive and Alberta Drive through that area of the community, looking at different options for roadway improvements, things like that, and also alternate connections in and out of that neighborhood. Study just got underway in the last few months. It should be done next spring or early summer, and that'll give us some answers as to that area, anything we can do to improve traffic out there.
Thank you. Appreciate it. So we're back to looking for a motion on item 17. John.
I think the one thing they could do is reduce the speed limit on Sheridan Lake Road coming from the south, because it's hard to get out. There's a curve, all of a sudden cars are right on top of you, and so most people now are going to the light. Well, that's getting backed up on Dunsmore for access. If they just drop the speed limit in that corridor for approaching traffic, I think it's going to prevent somebody from dying. Thank you.
Mike again.
I guess I'd like to thank John for bringing that up. The other thing I would recommend maybe is that we look at that light. To John's point, it does back up sometimes, and it may take you 2 times to get through. And I think it's something that might fix the problem if we continue to monitor that light.
All right, anybody want to do a motion on the annexation?
Motion to approve the annexation.
Great. Rachel made the motion to approve the petition for annexation. Is there a second? Galen seconded the motion. Any discussion on the motion on the floor? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? The motion carries. All right, discussion items, staff items.
Just wanted to put you on notice that at your next meeting, it's going to be a very short agenda, and we are going to request Carla. She's actually offered to bring forward an ex parte communication training session, and that's something that's a good reminder for several of you, but anyone that's new, it's also very important to attend and learn what communication is allowed outside of this meeting.
Yes, we're saying that not to tell you to avoid next meeting because I'm going to talk for a while, but it's my one chance to talk to you all about due process and like the legal kind of parameters under which you guys operate. So, and I take that pretty seriously, and I hope to see you next time.
Great. Thanks, Carla. Ken.
I'd also like to make you aware of a new program that we are starting. So on November the 8th, I guess that's the day before the next Planning Commission meeting, 9 o'clock in the morning, we will start a program which is called Coffee with Planners. And so we will be holding, it's a public gathering, so it's not an official meeting, but it's an opportunity for the public and anyone interested to come and just listen to what we have as far as master planning, new developments that are coming up. It's not going to be official long presentations. It's intended to be more of a discussion, a chat, have some coffee and donuts, and answer questions in regards to what's going on in the city. So we'll do this kind of on a bi-monthly or quarterly basis. We're inviting everybody and anybody to come. So it will be Wednesday, November 8th at 9 o'clock in the community room, first floor of this building. And we, of course, would invite all of you to be there.
Great, thank you. So now we're up to election of officers, huh? All right. So, start with chairperson. Nominations for chair. Anybody? Okay, John nominated me for chairperson for this round. I forgot the second. Kim, I think, or Rachel. Any discussion? All those in favor of renominating me or electing me as chairperson, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. I've been nominated or confirmed as chair again. Vice chairperson. Nominations for that? Well, I'd nominate Galen. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. And then secretary. All right. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. 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 There you have it. You sign a lot of stuff. I think that takes care of it. Any further items for the meeting today?
Yes, I have one.
John?
Since it's been 20 years, I think, since we had new computers, or whenever, you know, I hear they're in the works. In the meantime, until we receive them, can we get a printout of staff reports sent to us like in the old days? And then we all have it, because we're up here now, none of us can get on our computers. It's a nightmare. So until the new computers arrive, just send it out like we used to do.
Boy, we no longer have that third secretary in our office because it's time consuming to bond them.
We have a secretary.
I think we'd rather look at expediting getting all of you tablets, which is, I think, the direction we're going to go. They're only used to access the agenda for this meeting, and tablets would be easy to access, and you can maneuver very easily on them. So
do you not have paper copies in front of you right now?
No, all we
Okay.
have is what's printed out there.
So at least what we can do at the next meeting is have a paper copy here for you. In advance of that, it will be online available, and then we'll get those tablets as quickly as possible.
Well, we know it's online today, but we're not being able to pull it up.
Right. That's what I'm
So,
saying. If you
yeah.
had a paper copy in front of you this morning, would that help?
Yeah, it would help a lot.
Okay, we'll plan on that.
Thank you.
If there's no other business, I'd look for a motion to adjourn. Rachel made the motion. Kim seconded the motion. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.